Marcos, President of the Philippines.
Yes. Don't take my 16 bucks, please. Yeah, I'm not taking my ticket. Let me find my reports out.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
Could you be the
Distinguished
big
guests,
Wait, why I'm asking you?
my friends.
I could do whatever I want.
It certainly is gratifying that in the course
Yeah.
of my present visit to the United States, I should once again be accorded the opportunity
I could try to
to
find
meet
one,
with
but
the people
I'm
who
not gonna take
understand me or misunderstand me most.
no with mushrooms.
I'd like to thank all of you.
I was guessing with mushrooms, okay?
I
we have
remember
mushrooms.
that our relationship,
We could grow them and get more.
the relationship between the two countries can be opened up at one of two
Oh, I
points
take damage.
by the historian
so
or the
many
curious
Okay,
investigator
now I
into
could-
world events.
Wait, did you
One,
take the
the
mushrooms?
military, which was
The spot
Admiral
them,
or then
you
Commodore
bonded, and
Dewey.
That's it.
sinking the Spanish fleet under Montojo on May 1st, 1898
Hey, show me.
in Manila Bay, and with the help of the Filipino revolutionaries
Show me.
under General or President Emilio Aguinaldo, who then proclaimed
Give me one.
the first Philippine Republic. Incidentally, President Emilio Aguinaldo was the grandfather of Prime Minister Cesar Virata, who is here. My grandfather only
I
commanded
think it's
the
only red
revolutionary
mushrooms.
forces.
There is.
We have changed places since then. Either that point of entry is chosen or the more sedate commercial one 100 years back. 1796, the brig Astrea, sailing out of Salem, Massachusetts, towards Lisbon, and then to Manila, selling her wares there for 5 months, carrying that
to ride on the horses.
amateur and self-taught mathematician and navigator Nathaniel
What did it
Joseph
say? What did it say?
whom you must have heard, who later in 1806 authored The
Ask
Practical
how,
American
why does
Navigator,
brown
for he had
mushroom
discovered the
doesn't
simple
grow
way
on-
of determining longitude
What-
through the
what-
long
what's thunder?
voyage across the Pacific. The American government bought the rights of the two editions, and it has
Should we
become
make a
standard
beautiful
text for all
poem?
those who study salesmanship from Kings Point
Hey, but
to Annapolis.
how did it grow?
Either way, it has been dramatic,
Dang that llama! I'm gonna kill
and
that llama.
historic.
Here.
and it was always to be so.
That's why
There was
that's why
always
you blend,
extreme
that's why you go
on both sides. Enmity, if not enmity, extreme friendship. A relationship of
She gets
love,
struck by lightning and then thunder.
and this is my faith
My dad.
and destiny.
My dad is videoing me now.
I thank you all for this privilege and this honor.
Mm-mm.
It may be said that an official journal like mine
Tell
ought
me
ought
what?
always to visit
Okay, I'm just gonna.
with this press association for,
Wait,
as someone once observed correctly, the American press
no.
is of course
The
the
string is
fourth
still
branch
there,
of government in
The
this
thing
country.
is still there.
And then also it
You
is
know,
well to remember
the
that
rope,
the
it's still
so-called
there.
solicitude with which Americans regard developments in the Philippines is perhaps now
Yo, there's
more
mushrooms
pronounced
there right now.
than in the
That's wrong.
devoted reportage by the American press on our
Okay,
country.
I found one.
This skein of the American interest of the American press
Yeah,
notwithstanding,
I will
for which I
put
fear
some,
some confusion
yeah,
in this country of what is happening in the
I'm
Philippines
gonna call
today.
this guy.
It has been one of the shocks I encountered while preparing for my present journey and also upon arrival here
Because I
in
feel like
Washington,
he
to read
went to the desert.
in one of your
And he turned
outstanding
black.
papers
That
a
sounds
statement to
racist
the
right
effect
now,
that
right?
the Philippines is still
Right.
under military rule, which it is not, and that there is no civil government. Such misstatements, whether intended or otherwise, conveniently merged with more accurate reporting about the true situation in the country, resulting in much confusion and
Tell me
misimpressions
what.
about our country, require clarification.
Are you at the Brown?
So perhaps I should
right
begin
now?
by stating first a few basic facts
Go
about
there.
our country without
Because you
too much embroidery. The
Yeah,
Philippines
or
is
just
a
move them
Republican
back
state
to the house.
with a duly elected government at national and
Probably
community
not.
level.
You
We have a
want
national constitution duly drafted by a constitutional convention
Yeah, watch
elected and convened in 1970 and duly ratified by our people in
Maxwell,
1973.
you're a bad boy.
Under that constitution, ours is a modified form of presidential government with a National Assembly
I'm just sitting on
constituted by assemblymen elected by regions in 1978 and a president directly elected by the people in 1981. Legislative power is vested
Imagine
in that
you could,
National
bro.
Assembly, while the executive power is vested in the
I would be
president.
like
And
get damaged by
The party in
by the
power,
government.
the party that won the most number of members in this National
I know.
Assembly, choose the leader of the legislature,
not
and the
funny,
leader
Reese.
is the Prime Minister, and he's
That's
no other
not
than Prime
funny.
Minister Cesar Virata.
Oh, I don't want to. Doesn't come river.
We have an independent
was
judiciary which is
center.
under the full supervision of the Supreme Court. While it is claimed that human
Hey, well,
rights
I
are
can't
not
make that
protected
joke.
by the courts or that civil
planting
rights
our
are
garden.
not duly
I'm making our
enhanced by the Constitution.
Can I make a garden first?
Because there is no way of seeking, say, the remedy
Okay, these
of
are our new flowers.
writ of habeas corpus. The truth of the matter is anyone can petition for a writ of habeas corpus in the Philippines. In fact, all those who have been apprehended as having brought in hundreds and hundreds of firearms bought from the PLO and other sources and who have bragged openly in the television when they are caught that they were the leaders of these rebel groups and who later changed their tone on the advice of their lawyers, went to the Supreme Court and were
do you
able to
mean?
obtain an order
You
from the
just
Supreme
mine
Court
regular
for
gold.
the Philippine government to bring the bodies of these people to
I do.
before the
I want
Supreme
to
Court,
die.
which we did. There is not
You do
a
the nether
single
part, I
man
do the.
who has
the
filed a
part.
petition for a writ of habeas corpus who has not been able to
Mm.
compel the government to bring the body of all those petitioners to the
You just
Supreme
need
Court.
one, right?
In fact, the Supreme Court
That's it.
ordered an investigation on the
No,
allegations of
one
torture. The
villager.
results were negative. The doctors testified that they examined all of these persons, all these petitioners,
Oh, you have to do that?
during the period of confinement, and they never complained about any
Explain
treatment
that.
or torture. And some indiscreet
Yes.
remark indicated that this was merely said on the advice of the lawyer as a preparation for defense in the criminal trial. Now let's review the overall measures. All measures
Frick, those
that have been
freaking
issued by the
mother-
president were issued at his instance
Oh,
alone. No.
what's wrong with my
They are
right
issued
now?
after a meeting of what is known as the party caucus. You who have studied constitutional law
Yeah.
know
I've only
that
fought-
in a
I
modified
could only give you
parliamentary
7 because I
or
have
presidential
14.
form of government, the president actually doesn't make the decisions. He may lead the party, and therefore in the
Awa,
caucus,
awa.
he may exert influence in the caucus. But the caucus
Sounds
decides
like he's saying awa,
what
awa.
is going to happen. What is the policy to be adopted? In fact,
Awa, awa.
our constitution institutionalizes
Awa.
this procedure and states that the program and policy of government shall be adopted by the cabinet, submitted to the president for approval, but shall be responsible to the members of the National Assembly or the Batasang Pambansa, and for which the Prime Minister must stand. If he is rejected, then he must quit, he must resign, and a new Prime Minister must be appointed. Now, over all cases are appealable to the Supreme Court, including cases of security against the state. We have a system of local government and administration throughout the country. In all, there are 73 provinces, 60 cities, 1,502 municipalities, 42,000 barangays, in each of which there are regular elections. Barangays are the villages. We just had elections this year. The election for president occurred in 1981. Under the Constitution, the people have a right of recall. They can recall anyone who has been elected by 1/5 of all the voters who voted in the last election. A vote of 1/5 will suffice to call a new election for any given post. Our Constitution likewise provides for a Bill of Rights, which guarantees protection of the political and civil rights of all individuals, regardless of color or creed. Incidentally, that statement allegedly made by Cardinal Sin has been denied by Cardinal Sin. I was surprised that you haven't heard about it. This just goes to prove that there is some time lag when you move towards the west. Cardinal Sin, when he arrived in the Philippines, appeared before some of our friends and said, look, there's no quarrel between the church and state, and the church and state are separate. I have no intention of intervening in political affairs. I have not stated that the president should resign. That's his business. That's the business of the people. He was elected by the people, and I'm not about to say anything about this. That's why I'm surprised that here you make much of it. But I suppose that's part of news. It's good copy. Can you imagine asking the president?
I'm trapped in the lava sink.
By Constitution on Monday, social justice is a matter of national policy and a priority objective of government. And this is why one of the first reforms was land reform.
Don't drop
You know,
down.
when I proclaimed martial law, I didn't proclaim martial law alone. It is made to appear as if
Never mind, I'm
I
fine.
just signed the decree and said, I impose martial law on each and every one of you. No. I asked the legislature to please pass a law proclaiming martial law because there was anarchy in the country. Now, let me say this, the opposition was strong. And they were members of the Security Council, and somehow they adopted a resolution which required that there be a unanimous vote for the armed forces to be able to move. And therefore the armed forces will be mobilized. At the same time, I asked the opposition party to come and join me in the coalition government. I offered 1/2 of the cabinet. And of course they laughed at me and said, why should we join you? We're going to take over the government. By the time you are through with the exercise, you're dead, politically and otherwise. So, and they refused to join me. I asked the advice of the judiciary. I asked the Supreme Court justices, the Court of Appeals justices, and the members of the private sector. And all of them told me there's only one man who can proclaim martial law, and that is the president. And you are it. You are the only one who can proclaim martial law. This is why I must carry this particular mark in our history. I could not have transferred it to the legislature. Why? Because the legislature did not have the power. What does the Constitution provide? The President shall be the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and he may order the armed forces out to quell any disorder, riot, rebellion, invasion, insurrection, and in case of invasion, insurrection, rebellion, or imminent danger thereof, when the public safety requires it, he may suspend the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus or proclaim martial law throughout
If
the
I'm
Philippines
blind or I'm
any
not
part
looking.
thereof. What does that provision provide? It provides that only the president can proclaim martial law. I repeat, that is why I had to assume responsibility. And I am not one for shirking
Let's
duty.
make one.
The people said there was necessity for
What do you-
proclaiming martial law. And the people said, you are the only
I'm just
official who can
practicing
proclaim
it
martial
right
law. So
now.
hey, I proclaim martial law. And I sincerely
I'm just
believe
practicing
that
it
it was
one block.
necessary to proclaim martial law to install order and stability
Yeah.
because there was complete
I'm gonna
anarchy
practice
throughout
now.
the country at the time. Now, therefore, at that particular
The only
period,
thing is I'm trash at this.
what was the status of
Yeah, but now
our
okay.
government? Our
The only
government
thing-
was
The only
immobilized.
thing, the part of me
impotent.
is I'm
The armed
trash at
forces
this
could not
game,
move out.
or my hands
The
are
industry was
That's the first
not
one.
at all in any way
and you know it.
moving. There was no income coming into government. Everybody was running away. They burned the U.S. Partly burned the U.S. embassy, tried to burn it anyway. They tried to kidnap the American ambassador. American ambassador was Byroad, Ambassador Byroad. And they tried to kidnap our foreign minister, Romulo, whom you just saw today. And I told him, you better disappear because I will not ransom you. But whatever it is, they burned the Manila International Airport, they burned the Supreme Court, they burned the Constitutional Convention, they burned the City Hall, they burned the part of Malacanang Palace, they attempted to kidnap my children, they attempted to kill the president 8 times. There was, of course, an attempted assassination against the First Lady. You all know about it. And this required that I immediately act on it, and so I did. Now,
But
we established
take a break now.
land reform. We were fighting a group known as the Hukbalahap, Hukbong Nagpapalaya ng Bayan.